मोहम्मद नोमान।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
वाइस्लाम, कैसे हैं नोमान?
शुक्र है सर, आप सुनाइए।
शुक्र है। नोमान क्या करें, थोड़ा वेट करना है?
यस सर, 1-2 मिनट वेट कर लेंगे सर।
चलो। नोमान, शुरू करते हैं मेरे ख्याल में।
यस सर।
ठीक है जी। ओके। ओके, वेलकम एवरीवन आफ्टर द ईद। Before I start very quickly, या नोमान इस पे बाद में थोड़ा सा बात कर लें, क्विज के ऊपर और जो एक्स्ट्रा क्लास है
Oh, okay, sir.
थोड़ा बाद में कर लेना, और भी स्टूडेंट्स हो जाएं, क्या ख्याल है?
Yes, sir.
ओके ओके, लेट्स स्टार्ट द लेक्चर. इट इज लेक्चर नंबर 6, वीक नंबर 6. The topic is resource management and project control during execution. Okay, by the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain the resource management. You should be able to explain major stages of resource management and explain project control and supervision during execution. So you see now we are talking of definitely some more in-depth topics. One will be resource management, the other will be what are different stages, and then we are talking on control now. The project has, we have saved a baseline. Baseline has been saved. क्यों जनाब? बेसलाइन. उसामा उसामा फरीद,
जी सर.
थोड़ा सा बता सकते हैं बेसलाइन क्या चीज़ है?
सर आई जस्ट ज्वाइन, मेरा नेट कनेक्ट नहीं हो रहा था अभी तक सर.
नहीं, मगर बेसलाइन अभी का टॉपिक नहीं है, हमने पहले टच किया हुआ है पिछली क्लासेस में. नहीं अंदाजा?
नो सर.
ओके. जिब्रान,
यस सर.
कुछ बता सकते हैं व्हाट इज बेसलाइन?
सर एक फिक्स पॉइंट जो हम रेफरेंस कंपोजिशन के लिए यूज करते हैं सर, कंपैरिजन पर्पस के लिए सर.
हम तो प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट की भी बात कर रहे हैं.
सर इतना आइडिया नहीं है सर.
ओके. हमजा, मोहम्मद हमजा.
सर कोई प्रोजेक्ट प्लान का स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट होता है,
नहीं एग्जैक्टली याद नहीं है हमने लास्ट टाइम क्या डिस्कस किया था.
एग्जैक्ट डेफिनेशन याद नहीं है.
नहीं डेफिनेशन नहीं, कॉन्सेप्ट.
नो सर अभी.
ओके. मोहम्मद बिन नादिल,
जी सर.
कुछ बता सकते हैं बेसलाइन क्या है?
नो सर मुझे याद नहीं है सर, भूला हुआ है.
अच्छा. आबिद, आबिद अली,
जी सर.
कुछ बता सकते हैं क्या चीज़ है?
सॉरी सर, कोई आइडिया नहीं है.
अब्दुल मुसव्विर,
यस सर.
कुछ बता सकते हैं बेसलाइन क्या है?
सर स्टार्ट ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट या स्कोप वगैरह सर इसमें.
नहीं, आपको भी पता नहीं है, अंदाजे से कह रहे हैं. क्यों नोमान, कुछ कह सकते हैं?
सर भूल गया सर.
ना नोमान, बहरहाल इस तरह तो मज़ा नहीं आएगा, फिर तो हम आगे बिल्ड करते जाएंगे और पीछे की चीज़ें रह जाएंगी. एनीवेज ये आप ध्यान में रखें, क्विक सा एक आपका रिफ्रेशर था कि आपको देखें चीज़ें याद नहीं है. बेसलाइन, आई टॉक्ड अबाउट बेसलाइन इफ यू रिमेंबर इन द लास्ट लेक्चर प्रोबेबली. मुदस्सिर कह रहा है इमेजिनरी स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट. नो 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 नो.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर.
जी 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 खालिद.
सर किसी भी प्रोजेक्ट को शुरू करने से पहले हम एक वो कहते हैं कि हमने इसको 5 या 6 या 10 वीक्स में या 2 महीनों में हम खत्म करना है, मतलब कि प्रोजेक्ट एक वो बेस लगा रख देते हैं ना, इस टाइम में हमने इसको करना है सर. स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट मतलब कि रख देते हैं.
अच्छा ठीक है.
तो सर
ठीक
फिर
है.
मतलब कि उसको बुनियाद बना कर ना, उसको मुताबिक आगे जो हम प्रोजेक्ट है उसको सर फिर आगे प्रोग्रेस करते हैं सर.
अच्छा ठीक है. खालिद कुछ ठीक कोशिश कर रहे हैं, लेकिन बिल्कुल वाज़ेह अल्फाज में बात नहीं कर पाए. मुझे हिंट तो मिल रही है आपकी बातों से, नो डाउट. लेकिन थोड़ा सा अगर अल्फाज को आगे पीछे करें, मे भी शायद फिर आपको सम ज़्यादा क्लियर हो जाए हमें कि आप कहना क्या चाह रहे हैं. चले मैं बताता हूँ. ठीक है, खालिद की बेहतर कोशिश थी. Basically, we are talking of a baseline. If you remember, we said that when you start the planning, that this is the project and we are going to do it in certain way. Khalid just gave an example that we divide it into 5, 6, 7 parts, levels. We create the work breakdown structure and we sequence the activities. We put them one after the other. We define their relationships, start to finish, finish to start, finish to finish, whatever, with lags, with delays, with the critical path, slags, and whatnot and whatnot. Once you make it final. Once you sign it, sign means not physical sign, it can be physical sign also, but digitally sign. But when all the parties agree that yes, this is our final plan, we are done with the planning, and now let's proceed. So you save the baseline. That is your reference. That is the whole plan is reference. It is just not the starting date. Somebody said the starting point. No, it's not the starting point. The complete map, the complete sequence, the entire project. If it is, let's say, 5 years project, construction of a dam. So when you save the baseline, then you save that this is what is my plan and how this, according to this plan, I'm going to execute. That is another story, that during the execution, there might be changes. So now I'm saying that in third bullet, project control. So when the baseline is saved, project is approved, you start the execution, now you're managing it and you have the baseline saved, and that is your original reference. The groundbreaking was supposed to happen on 1st of January. It happened on 1st of February. Your concreting of the dam was due to complete on 30th of June 2025. It completed 1 month earlier, 2 months earlier, or maybe 3 months delayed. So that is the actual, but the baseline is 30th June, for example. So please refer to your notes. I can't go and explain too many things on the previous lectures. Okay. Now let's say the first thing is the resource management. Resource management entails the way in which resources are optimally and cost effectively utilized in order to obtain the required project outcome. Resource management entails the way in which resources are optimally and cost effectively utilized in order to obtain the required project objective. You have to achieve the project, no doubt. But that in order to achieve that project objective, you have to make sure that resources are optimally used. You don't spend too many resources. If 1 road roller is required, if 10 laborers are required for 2 days, we don't want to spend 4 days with 20 laborers, or even with 10 laborers 3 days. We don't want to have that. And definitely the cost should be also optimum. So these are the 2 major objectives in terms of operational management which you have to manage. Good resource management not only saves time and costs, but it frees up resources to utilize on critical issues as the need arises. If you are a good manager, if you are a good planner, if you're a good manager, then not only you're going to save the time, but you're also going to save costs. And then you free up. You will spare the resources so that they can be utilized on critical issues. Your project has critical path and various activities. So if you free up resources over here, you can deploy them elsewhere to make sure that those activities are completed. The most important resource that project managers have to plan and manage on day-to-day basis are what? What are the resources which the manager has to manage on daily basis? People, human resources, machine resources, materials, and definitely the money you have, the capital which is there, is also a very big important resource. So these will be the issues to worry about as a manager. Obviously, if these resources are available in abundance, if these resources are in huge quantity, for example, then the project could be accelerated. Then you can accelerate the project to achieve the shorter project duration. Yes, you can do that, but provided you have free resources. On the other hand, if these resources are severely limited, but the opposite side can be possible, that these resources, what? People, machine, material, they are less in number. They are less in number. The result more likely will be delay in the project completion time. Then what will happen? There will be a delay in the project completion time. So manager has to be optimally using it. And you need to have various tools in order to know that. For big projects, you have to have software tool, you have to have feedback so that you can analyze the situation on ground and accordingly speed up or shuffle the resources so that your project there is no wastage happening. Depending upon the type of resource, the cost of providing abundance of such resources to accelerate project completion can be very high. Depending upon the type of resource. Do you need another excavator? Do you need a concrete batching plant? Do you need an asphalt plant? It depends what type of resource is being is in question. The cost providing an abundance in order to enhance the capacity of your concrete batching plant, or in order to enhance the capacity of asphalt batching plant, or in order to have twice the compaction in terms of quantity using the, for example, road roller. It depends upon what type of resources are required to accelerate. So the cost can be very, very high. Installing a second batching plant is not that easy. It's not that you just say, okay, I need a batching plant and I just do it. It is not possible like that. Noman, clear hai ye baat?
Yes, sir.
Nurullah? Nurullah, clear hai baat?
Yes, sir.
Khalid? Khalid Rahman.
Yes, sir.
Clear hai?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me give
Yes,
you an
sir.
example. Okay, good. Let me give you an actual example, real example on this bullet. Depending upon the type of resource, cost of providing an abundance of such resource to accelerate project completion time can be very high. I can give you an example of Orange Line because I happen to go there during construction. Okay, so just hold on, just 1 second. Okay, I'm giving you the example of Orange Line. It was a fast-track construction project. Due to complication on one of the package, one of the contractor was not there. There was a new contractor. So when you have a new contractor, definitely when the first contractor is disengaged, there are legalities involved. There is stoppage of work, and then you do the tendering for the new contractor. And then you start the work, and the new contractor when comes, then he has to mobilize. I think I have explained mobilization. At least I have explained mobilization in my previous course 4-1 in the previous 7th semester, mobilization. Noman, clear hai? Khalid, do you know what is mobilization? Khalid
पिछले
Rahman.
सेमेस्टर में सर हमारे साथ वो था क्वांटिटी सर्वे की बात करें सर
जी
सर हमारे साथ वो थे जो इंजीनियर शहजाद साहब थे सर
नहीं, वो मैं समझ रहा हूँ, वो तो मैं नहीं कह रहा, लेकिन क्या आपने कहीं पे पढ़ा है मोबिलाइजेशन क्या होती है?
सर मोबिलाइजेशन सर मूवमेंट ऑफ द मतलब कि जो पर्सन होते हैं वो रिस्पेक्टिव या
नहीं, ठीक है, पर्सन की को मूव करना तो अपनी जगह पे, बट मोबिलाइजेशन टेक्निकली मींस दैट द कॉन्ट्रैक्टर, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू आर टॉकिंग ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्टर, द कॉन्ट्रैक्टर gets into motion. He or she will mobilize resources. Bulldozer, setting up the residential area for stay of the staff, offices, acquiring the getting possession of the area where the construction has to be started, and so many things, bringing the equipment. So this is the mobilization. So what I'm trying to say is, for a new contractor to now come in and mobilize, it requires a lot of resources. Mobilization in projects can be of days, weeks, months, and years even. In a big dam project, it depends. Mobilization can take a lot of time. So it's not necessary that you have to wait for a complete mobilization. In case of dam, you can start that, but the point is it can take lot of time, lot of resources sometimes. So in case of Orange Line, the mobilization of contractor involved setting up of the casting yard also. The casting yard was also to be set. So that is the mobilization. So now you just imagine, because of this, disengaging one contractor, engaging another contractor, and the mobilization, I don't exactly remember the number of weeks or months, but I am sure it was in a couple of months, 3-4 months. So your project can be delayed by 3-4 months or 5 months or even more. So now how to catch up? They came up with an idea. They deployed additional resources. And what was that? They wanted to accelerate the construction of precast U-tub girders. U-tub girders. The girders which are U-tub. Have you seen the pictures of Orange Line? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
No, Mohammad Noman ne dekhi hai. If you browse the net later on, you can see the pictures. The train moves. There is a rail, and the train moves on these rails, and this is the U-tub. So it is 30 meter long. It's a one-piece pre-stress, pre-tension girder. 200 plus tons is the weight. Now there are hundreds of such girders need to be casted. It might have been on the critical path. Now we need to speed up this construction process. How to do that? They were already, you know what they were already doing? I think in 3 days' time, they were achieving somewhere between 75% to 85% of FC prime. In 3 days' time, about 75 to 85% of the FC prime was achieved using their mixtures. This was already happening, but now they wanted to accelerate it further. So what was decided? It was decided to import a steam curing plant. Steam curing plant. What is steam curing? Steam curing. Fahimul Hassan, any idea? Jaldi, zyada time na lagaye. What is steam curing? Abdul Musawwir.
Sir, use a steam for curing of concrete, sir.
Why? Why should you do it?
So to fast up the gain of strength in concrete.
Yes, it helps in accelerating the gaining of strength. So I think a plant from US was imported, and definitely it was a very big plant. I think 2 girders or 3 girders, something like that, could be fit into that system for steam curing, and a separate plant which contained water, and then boiling it, converting into steam, and pumping it at a desired temperature, and so many things, and thermocouples and humidity measurement sensors were required. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you want to accelerate the time, if you want to accelerate the progress, it doesn't come cheap. It might cost you a lot. You might need to import items. So this is what I'm trying to make a point. Khalid Rahman, clear हुआ?
Yes, sir.
भूलेगा तो नहीं?
No, sir.
मोहम्मद नोमान,
जी सर.
क्लियर हुआ?
Yes, sir.
इतनी मैंने जोर लगा के आप लोगों को एग्जाम्पल देते हैं, उसका कोई फायदा होता है कि फायदा नहीं होता है? नोमान,
होते हैं सर.
खालिद रहमान, फायदा होता है कि नहीं?
Yes, sir. Of course होता है सर.
लेकिन जब स्टूडेंट्स जनरली भूल जाते हैं तो मेरा फिर हिम्मत नहीं होती है कि इस तरह आउट ऑफ द वे जाके टाइम देखें. अभी हम एक फर्स्ट बुलेट के ऊपर फंस गए हुए हैं जाके, लेकिन अब अगर मैं कुछ अरसे बाद मेरा नेक्स्ट क्लास में अगर पूछूं और ना याद हो तो फिर तो नेचुरल सी बात है. आई वुड नॉट बी फीलिंग वेरी इनकरेज टू गिव यू सच एग्जांपल. बस फिर तो मैं पॉइंट्स पढ़ता जाऊं और आपको बस आगे चलता जाऊं. क्या कहते हैं
सर? स्टूडेंट की सपोर्ट जो है ना वो चाहिए, ताकि वो बैकअप करे और ताकि टीचर भी मोटिवेट हो जाए. लेकिन सर ईद गुजरी है तो सर सारे
अच्छा चलिए,
एक तो ऑनलाइन क्लासेस है इसलिए सर.
ओके चलिए, ठीक है. ओके, लेट्स मूव फर्दर. However, if resources are readily available, then project cost should be low. So if that steam curing plant is already available, for example, you don't need to import it. So maybe then the cost should be low in terms of deploying this resource, as some project costs are resource related while others are likely to be time dependent. So in some cases you need such resources. Steam curing plant, by the way, they told me that it is the largest steel curing plant. I am talking of 2017, I guess. So they told me that this is the largest steam curing plant of Pakistan and the first. I don't know, but somebody told me over there, so I believe in that. So you can just imagine that in certain cases, in such cases, technical cases, you require certain resources, and in some cases you really don't need such things, but you just need time to do it. If you're doing excavation and you can only deploy 10 people and 2 excavators, you can't deploy more than that, and you need time only to do it. In general, projects with a shorter duration are less expensive. The longer the duration of the project, the higher will be the overall project cost. Please do remember this fundamental concept. Typically, if a project plan optimally, let's say, takes 1 year to complete, you want to do it in 6 months, it will be costly, because a lot of parallel resources need to be I have to give you 2 examples now. If you are making it, if you remember my last lecture, one was crashing of the project. It will require adding of extra resources. So now it will be costly. This is one extreme. So if you bring the time shorter and shorter, it will be expensive. Over here in this bullet, we are saying if you make it 2 years, it will still be costly, because a lot of resources will be idling. So shorter duration, actually, I would use a word optimum. If you have planned it optimally, if you complete it within the time, it will be less expensive. But if you keep on extending the time to 1.5, 2 years, it will become expensive. A lot of resources will be idling, cost will go up, escalation will be there, inflation is there, so many things. But on the other hand, if you crash it, I will just say, I think today we also have this discussion, maybe, but last time we have already done it. Khalid Rahman, याद है ना, हमने crashing और उसकी बात की थी last time. Khalid नहीं है?
यस सर, वो दरवाजे पे कोई आया था सर, उधर गया था सर.
ओके, नो इशू. नोमान, याद है लास्ट टाइम हमने कुछ डिस्कशन की थी क्रैशिंग ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट?
यस सर.
तो मैं इस जगह पे, यानी कि आई एम ट्राइंग टू मेक द पॉइंट, आप इसको मैच्योरली समझें, कि अब ये ना समझें इस जुमले में लिखा हुआ है कि इन जनरल प्रोजेक्ट विद शॉर्टर ड्यूरेशन आर लेस एक्सपेंसिव. तो अब आप जो है ना, अब आप कहेंगे जी 2 साल का प्रोजेक्ट है और मैंने 6 महीने में करना है और ये अब लेस एक्सपेंसिव होगा. नहीं, ये प्लीज कंट्राडिक्ट ना करें. नाउ वी नीड मैच्योरिटी नाउ, क्योंकि हम ऑलरेडी क्रैशिंग और इन चीजों में बात कर चुके हैं. तो मैं इस चीज को क्लियर करना चाह रहा हूं, कोई डाउट्स नहीं रखना चाह रहा, कंफ्यूजन आपकी अगर किसी की जनरेट होती है वो खत्म करना चाह रहा हूं कि शॉर्टर ड्यूरेशन का मतलब एब्सोल्यूट टर्म्स में मत लें. अगर आपने प्लान किया था 12 महीने का प्रोजेक्ट, आप उसको 11 महीने में कंप्लीट करते हैं, यानी कि 100 डेज में या 100 यूनिट्स में कंप्लीट करना था, आप उसको 95 यूनिट्स में टाइम वाइज 90 यूनिट्स में 88 यूनिट्स में खत्म करते हैं, इट विल बी लेस एक्सपेंसिव, आपको बचत होगी. लेकिन मैं कहता हूं अगर आप इसको हाफ टाइम में कंप्लीट करने की कोशिश करें, वो नहीं होगा. उसके लिए फिर आपको एडिशनल रिसोर्सेज क्रैशिंग करनी होगी प्रोजेक्ट की, तो एक्सपेंसिव हो जाएगा. ये मेरा पॉइंट है. इसी तरह अगर आपका प्रोजेक्ट का कंट्रोल बड़ा लूज है और 100 डेज के बजाय 150 डेज, 180 डेज, 200 डेज लग रहे हैं, प्रोजेक्ट फिर भी एक्सपेंसिव होना शुरू हो जाएगा फॉर मेनी मेनी रीजंस. कुछ रिसोर्सेज आपके आइडलिंग कर रहे होंगे, वैसे ही डिप्लॉय होंगे. आपका अगर प्लांट्स हैं, चीजें हैं, उनको ना भी इस्तेमाल करें, उनकी कुछ ना कुछ कॉस्ट होगी, मेंटेनेंस कॉस्ट होगी, स्टैंड बाय चार्जेस होंगे, लेबर को आपने तनख्वाह देनी है या इंजीनियर्स को पे करना है, जगह रेंट पे ली हुई है उसके पैसे होंगे, अगर आपका पेट्रोल या डीजल नहीं भी खर्च हो रहा. फिर एस्केलेशन आना शुरू हो जाएगी, कॉस्ट एस्केलेशन, प्राइस हाइक एंड सो ऑन. सो दिस शुड बी वेरी केयरफुली इंटरप्रेटेड. coming next to the reality is that as long as the work on project is ongoing, will continue to draw resources on. ये मैंने आपको बता दिया, जब तक आपका काम चलेगा तो उसके resources draw होते रहेंगे. अब ये हमने चीजें कुछ पढ़ी हुई हैं, इसको जरा क्विक सा देख लेते हैं. Plan resource management, the process of defining how to estimate, acquire, manage and utilize physical and team resources. ये आपका पहला फेज कह लें या पहला प्रोसेस का हिस्सा कह लें कि रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट का प्लान बनाना कि what things are required, how you're going to manage them, how you're going to utilize them physically, what teams are required, and so on. One of the very critical phase of any project. Then is the estimate activity resources. Now you have several tens and hundreds or thousands of activities. You need to define what resources are needed. The process of estimating team resources and the type and quantities of material, equipment, supplies. Now you will ask, sir, material is already given by the designer. Yes, but still you need to procure them. You need it. The designer has given you 3000 psi, 4000 psi, 6000 psi concrete, 7000 psi concrete. 3 days to achieve 75 or 80% FC prime. Now it is your job as a contractor, for example, if you're a contractor, that how to achieve that. What are the materials required? Mixed designs and so many things. What equipments are needed? Vibrators. What type of vibrator? The vibrator has the main core machine where it is plugged in, and then it has 2 meter, 3 meter, 4 meter long poker sort of arrangement. So what type of vibrator is required? What should be the vibrating frequency of that? For how long it should be vibrated? All these things need to be in place. Otherwise, there will be problem. Acquire resources. Now, getting the resources. The process of obtaining team members, facilities, equipment, materials, supplies, and other resources necessary to complete the work. Now you have to acquire them. You have to procure them. Fourth one is develop team. The process of improving competencies, team member interaction, and overall team environment to enhance the project performance. Everything will work as a team, and you have to develop the team. Development of team does not mean that you brought in 1,000 labor, 300 DAEs, diploma associate engineers or technicians, 50 engineers, site engineers, 5 structural engineers, 5 highway engineers. For example, if it is some road project or BRT project or metro project or something like that, or dam project, and you brought in the project manager, no, this is the team. No, these are people. To work as a team, to work as a system, you have to do something. You have to make coordination. You have to set the policies, rules, train them. Everybody knows how to do, where to do, when to do, all these things. So it is the development of the team. So the next will be the managing the team. The process of tracking team member performance, providing feedback, resolving issues. Resolving issues. If you remember, we said risks. And then we said when the risk gets converted into, it gets materialized, it is an issue. So there will be issues and they need to be resolved. There will be, can be small issues and big issues. Control resources. The process of ensuring that physical resources assigned and allocated to the project are available as planned, as well as monitoring the planned versus the actual use of resources and performing corrective actions as necessary. So now you need to have the control. You are watching on all the issues, all the physical things which are happening, and you see what is your plan. And when there is a diversion happening, you step in, you try to intervene yourself through your team so that everything is being operated properly. Any question? Kya cheez? Okay. Okay, we are 23 students now. Noban, मैं quick सी बात कर लेता हूँ. आपको सबको याद होगा कि 9:25 पे आपका क्विज है ना आज?
Yes, sir.
यस सर।
ठीक है, सो एवरीवन शुड बी नोइंग इट, एवरीबॉडी शुड बी रेडी। और उसमें हमने ऑलरेडी मैसेज कर दिया हुआ है कि 15-20 मिनट जितने भी हैं उस पर लिखा हुआ, आप पढ़ लिया होगा आप लोगों ने।
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, और ये तो एक बात होगी। दूसरा, नोमान आप लोगों ने ऑलरेडी मेरे ख्याल में एग्री कर लिया हुआ है कि वी विल हैव एन एक्स्ट्रा क्लास, क्योंकि हमें डीन्स की तरफ से, डीन साहब की तरफ से, ये सीनियर डीन की तरफ से नोटिफिकेशन हुआ है कि इसी वीक में आप अपनी 7th क्लास भी ऑर्गेनाइज कर लें, क्योंकि अगले वीक से आपका मिड टर्म होगा। ऐसा ही है ना?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, तो नोमान कब है हमारी एक्स्ट्रा क्लास? फ्राइडे को
Friday को 8
8 o'clock। ठीक है, वो मैंने इसलिए इनको कहा क्योंकि पता नहीं क्लासेस का मसला होगा और बिजी स्केड्यूल होगा, तो मैंने कंबाइन कर ली। कंबाइन का मसला वो है, वो डिजिटली कंबाइन हो जाएगी, कोई इशू नहीं है। तो ये बस आप लोगों के जहन में रहे। ठीक है, लेट्स मूव फर्दर। थोड़ा स्पीड अप करना पड़ेगा क्योंकि आज हमने ये क्विज के लिए भी जल्दी चूंकि फारग होना, 20 मिनट उसमें निकल जाएंगे। नोमान, मुझे आपने जरूर जरा 9:15 पे भी जरा रिमाइंड करना, ताकि मैं अपने आप को पेस को मेक श्योर करूं कि, बल्कि 9:10 पे मुझे रिमाइंड कराएं सर कि 15 मिनट रह रहे मजीद। ठीक हो गया?
Okay, sir.
ओके ओके। रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट, सो यू हैव रिसोर्स प्लानिंग, you plan the resources, you define the resources, you allocate the resources. So this is called resource modeling. Defining and allocation means resources are being modeled. In your software, there is a sheet. आप लोगों ने अभी शुरू किया नोमान, रिसोर्सेज डिफाइन करने शुरू किए अपने सॉफ्टवेयर में?
No, sir.
अभी नहीं किए। चले, वो आपका टाइम जब आएगा उसमें आप देखेंगे देयर विल बी। जी ओके ओके मुदस्सिर, ठीक हो गया। आप देखेंगे कि जब आप आगे चलेंगे तो आपके सॉफ्टवेयर में, मुझे तो MS प्रोजेक्ट याद पड़ रहा है, उसमें एक शीट है, रिसोर्स शीट कहते हैं। उसमें जाके आप अपने तमाम रिसोर्सेज डिफाइन कर सकते हैं, मटेरियल, इक्विपमेंट और व्हाट नॉट एंड व्हाट नॉट। हंड्रेड्स एंड थाउजेंड्स ऑफ रिसोर्सेज कैन बी डिफाइंड। वो आपका एक तरह से रिसोर्स पूल होता है, दैट इज योर रिसोर्स पूल। तो अब वो तो डिफाइन हो गए, सिर्फ डिफाइन हुए। इफ यू हैव ए रिसोर्स शीट which has 1000 resources defined, 100 masons, 100 engineers, 10 bulldozers, 10 concrete mixers, 1000 tons of steel. So that is just defined in the sheet. It will not cost you. It will not be utilized anywhere. Then you have to allocate that resource to a particular activity. Then it gets engaged. Otherwise, it is not engaged. It's just a resource sheet. The next is resource aggregation. Then we have resource aggregation. So this is the major stage of resource scheduling process. We will discuss this in a second. So resource aggregation and resource aggravation. Aggravation, the word means that some issue is there. It is aggravated. It is troublesome. You need to resolve it. And then you have resource leveling and resource smoothing. So we are going to discuss this as well. These functions are also available in your software. Now, resource planning, very quickly, we have discussed it a lot. The work breakdown structure is made. This is the first thing. Historical records of similar projects and expert judgment, because this is very important. Your judgment and your previous experience or somebody else's previous experience, that how much time was taken, is important, because it gives you an insight, that it gives you a reference. Availability of the specified resources. Making sure what resources are there, where you have to procure, are they available within the country? Do you need to import them? If you need to import them, what will be the cost? How much will be the time? What will be the legal requirements? What are the documents required to clear it from customs? If you need to pay the foreign exchange, maybe State Bank of Pakistan is then involved. So there will be mechanisms in place in order to import that. So just giving you an idea that resources need to be looked in from various perspectives. Determining what resources will be required. Definitely basic question. Labor, equipment, what type of equipment, materials. What quantity for each resource will be required? What is the quantity of each? When are resources available to perform project activities? Maybe your batching plant and your crane, 200-ton crane, there is a crane which can lift 200 tons. And you know, these are very rare cranes. You don't find them 5 of those in Peshawar. You will find a crane in Peshawar, maybe 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 tons. But if I'm talking of 250 tons, these are rare cranes. So when this will be available? There is a question mark. Resource definition. Resource definition is the identifying of critical resources which are required for successful completion. We just discussed them in the previous slides also. While most resource modeling is concerned with people or workers such as masons or computer programmers, it may also include other resources such as machines. I just gave you an example of the steam curing plant. I just gave you an example of 250-ton crane. It's a very big crane, by the way. And such type of cranes were used in Orange Line. I have seen them. I don't exactly remember the capacity, but it was because the girder which was to be lifted was, I think, 250 tons or so, 230, 240, 250 tons. So there are 2 cranes required, one from one side, the other from the other side to lift it. But you need a big capacity crane to lift it, because you need to understand the working of the crane also. And now you will say, I'm not a mechanical engineer, but yes, you have to understand. When you have a crane, for example, it has a sort of a tower and then it has a boom. You can imagine that the hook which is there, so the 250-ton capacity is definitely dependent upon this distance as well. If it is almost vertical, maybe the capacity is 250. But when you make it horizontal, because you know there is an overturning moment now. So you need to understand that these basic, if you are for example, if you are a project manager or construction manager, you need to be alive to these things, basic physics, basic mechanics. So anyways, what machines are required and so on. Space where you need to place them, and space for working, and so many things. Often resources are specified in terms of number of units of resources required. For example, 5 masons or 3 computer programmers. Numbers. Alternatively, resources may be specified. जी, किसी ने माइक ओपन किया, क्यों जनाब? कोई कहना चाह रहा है? कोई क्वेश्चन है किसी का? ओके, फहीम, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं? फहीम, आपका माइक कैमरा भी ऑन हुआ है. ओके, फहीम को आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
यस सर. नो, कुछ नहीं सर जी.
Okay. Alternatively, resources may be specified in terms of hours or days that a specified resource is required. For example, 40 mason hours. 40 mason hours. I've already discussed this point with you previously as well. 40 mason hours or 24 computer programmer days, whatever. Resources may be considered as consumables, such as materials that may be used once and once only, or non-consumable, such as people. Okay. Before I go, 40 mason hours can mean 4 number of masons working for 10 days. Or it can mean 1 mason working for 40 days. Or it can mean 2 masons working for 20 days. Right? It depends. Or it can mean 10 masons working for 4 days. So you see, this is very critical. 4 into 10 is 40. 1 into 40 is 40. 2 into 20 is 40. And 10 into 4 is 40. Yes, everybody knows the mathematics. I know. But the point is, what is the difference? There's a huge difference in how much time you are going to complete that task. So depending upon the task, that is to be there. But typically, the level of effort is estimated by man days or man hours. And the second thing which we are trying to explain in the next bullet is resources can be consumable and resources can be non-consumable. Consumable resources are, for example, petrol, diesel, grease, cement, steel. These are consumable. They will be utilized. They will be finished. If you have a stock of 1,000 bags of cement, after a week or 10 days or whatever, it will be consumed. It will be no more there. But non-consumable resources are, for example, you have a tractor, you have computer, you have the overhead cranes, you have the main crane, moving crane, you have people. So these are non-consumable resources. The way in which consumable resources are used is not critical as long as they are used efficiently. Anyways, basic. However, in which non-consumable resources are used can have a significant impact on the project. For example, there is a significant difference between requiring 16 units of non-consumable resources for 1 week, thus requiring 16 units to be made available at that time, and requiring one non-consumable unit. I just explained you 4 number of masons working for 10 days or 1 mason working for 40 days. Both are 40 mason days or man days. So this is what is being sensitized. Resource allocation or loading. This also means loading. Resource allocation, also called resource loading, is concerned with assigning the required number of those resources identified in the previous step to each activity identified in the plan. Okay, you have defined the activities, now you are going to assign those resources. नोमान, आप लोग कब, खालिद, आप लोग कब तक पहुंचेंगे? आप लोग सॉफ्टवेयर में कहां पर हैं यार? सॉफ्टवेयर
लास्ट टाइम हमने वो किया था OBS को EPS के साथ कनेक्ट करना सर, बस यही वाला टॉपिक किया था।
किसको किया था
सर? EPS सर।
हाँ, EPA क्या चीज है? मुझे जरा एक्सप्लेन कर, व्हाट इज EPA?
इंटरप्राइज प्रोजेक्ट स्ट्रक्चर सर।
अच्छा, उसको किसके साथ?
सर OBS सर, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ब्रेकडाउन स्ट्रक्चर के साथ। OBS के साथ पहले हमने सर इसको कर दिया, मतलब किस तरह डिफाइन करना है, फिर हमने एक दूसरे के साथ मतलब कि कनेक्ट किया किस तरह एक OBS को EPS के साथ वो रिसोर्स मतलब एक अलाइन करते हैं, कनेक्ट करते हैं।
तो आपने अभी एक्टिविटीज डिफाइन करके उनको रिसोर्सेज एलोकेट करना सीखने शुरू किए?
नहीं सर, अभी सर ने कहा कि अभी आप लोगों को अगर ऑनलाइन कंटिन्यू रही तो फिर मैं स्पीड अप करूंगा, अगर फिर ऑफलाइन आ जाएंगे तो फिर मैं आप लोगों को उधर क्लास में मतलब कि डिटेल से बताऊंगा।
ठीक है। टीचर कौन है
सर? टीचर सर कोई न्यू टीचर है सर, अभी कंफर्म नहीं पता कहाँ से, लेकिन ये बनु कैंपस से है।
कौन है? नोमान कुछ बता रहा है। नोमान?
वकास अहमद
जी,
वकास अहमद सर।
अच्छा, ठीक है, नहीं ठीक है, करवा लेंगे। वो आपको अभी भी अच्छी चीजें करा रहे हैं, इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें करवा रहे हैं, गुड। तो एनीवेज, मेरा पॉइंट सिर्फ ये, मैं जो चीजें बताना चाह रहा हूँ ये वही बताने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि जब आप व्हेन यू डिफाइन द एक्टिविटीज इन द वर्क ब्रेकडाउन स्ट्रक्चर, सो देन एट दैट सेम टाइम you start assigning the resources to those activities as well. Okay. More than one type of resource may be attributed to a specific activity. You have activity of concreting of a pile. You will assign maybe a boring machine. You may be assigned a concrete, cement, and also masons and many things. So more than one type of resource will be attributed or assigned to a specific activity or a task. For example, fixing the plates of ship's hull. Okay, this is an example I just gave. I mean, not this example, I gave you example of civil engineering. From a practical standpoint, resource allocation does not have to follow a constant pattern. Some activities may initially require few resources, but may require more of the same resources during the later stages of the project. So certain activities in the beginning will require less resources, but the same activity later on in the advanced stages will require more resources for the same job. Because, for example, in the beginning, the excavation work might be in the first week of the start of project, maybe you need just one excavator. But as the progress happens, you are clearing the sites, maybe then you need 10 excavators after 2 weeks time. It depends. Now, resource aggregation. Now, let's see what is this. Resource aggregation is simply the summation. So it is, don't get confused. Nothing a rocket science. Very simple. Summation of the resources that will be needed, period by period, day by day, week by week, month by month, and so on. To complete the project activities, results are usually shown graphically in a histogram. Through the use of resource aggregation, the estimated requirement for resources can be compared with availability. Now let's see. You have an activity A, which will start in week 1. It will go all the way to week 2. You need 10 resources, 10 laborers, 10 masons, and you need 10. Activity B will start in the 2nd week and keep on going to 4th week. You will need 8 laborers, for example, or masons, 8 and then 6. C will start 4th week and 5th week, and this D will start from 4th week to 8th week, and E will start from 8th week to 9th week. Now what you do is 10 plus 10, 10 plus 8, 18, only 8, 6 plus 2 plus 2, 10, 6 plus 6, 12, 10, 14 and 6. So now when you draw an aggregate, this is the total units required. Now you see if on the lower part, this is 5 units, 10 units and 15 units. Now you see we are drawing this histogram. This is called the histogram. Now you see why we do it. Just imagine you are a project manager and you are working on a highway, and let's say these 10, 8, 6, whatever are these resources. For example, let's say these are labor which is needed on a particular activity. A is excavation at kilometer 1, B is excavation at kilometer 2, C is the excavation or some concreting happening for the buildings being constructed somewhere on the highway. Maybe there is a toll plaza, for example, and so on. So now you know as a manager in which week you require how many people. So accordingly you can engage them. So you can see this is very, very important. So you have this picture in front of you that what will be the flow of those masons or those labor required, so you can engage them and deploy them for each, and activity wise, time wise, activity wise, how much is the number. Khalid Rahman, clear hai?
Yes, sir.
Noman, clear hai?
Yes, sir.
नोमान क्यों डिले है यार?
No, sir.
अच्छा चले, कोई नहीं, आवाज में वो नहीं है, एनर्जी नहीं है, इसलिए कह रहा हूँ. Okay, let's move further. Resource aggregation. In a situation where the demand for resources is higher than the availability, this is, let's say you have this is the cutoff line for you, for example. Let's say this is the available resources for you throughout uniformly. Now over here, there is an issue. So this is what is being told. In situation where the demand for resources is higher, demand is more on a particular day or week, availability of resources is less. Now the project manager must, with the help of a resource histogram, resolve this problem by reallocating resources or lengthening the time frame, whatever is required. Either you increase the time so that you can relax the distribution of resources. This is one option. If you can't do that, you need to reallocate resources from one activity to another if it is possible. And if both are not possible, then maybe you have to bring in extra resources. You have to see. Okay, what is resource leveling? The PM book explains or defines a technique in which start and finish dates are adjusted based on resource constraints. Resources are constrained. You have fixed number of equipment and materials and all those things, for example. And you need to adjust the finish and start dates with the goal of balancing. You want to balance the demand against the available resources, right? So this is called the resource leveling. Now let's see. It is a scheduling technique in a project management which resolves possible conflicts arising from resource allocation. So there can be conflicts. More resources are needed. Noman, let me take the attendance.
Okay, sir.
Just 1 second. Section E. Okay. Okay, it is a scheduling technique in project management which resolves possible conflicts arising from resource allocation. The conflict is actually simple. I mean, to understand, the demand of people or equipment or road rollers at 1 day or 1 week are more than the resources which are available. So this is a conflict. It is used in resource constrained scheduling. So your project can be resource constrained. You can't enhance your resources. So in that case, you're going to adjust the start or finish date. You're going to change or you're going to modify the date so that you can relax the resources, and in a longer time you're able to do it. Improper allocation of resources lead in delay of project completion and financial risk in organization. So definitely, if the allocation of resources is not proper, you're going to make the project suffer. The organization will going to have a loss. Okay, Janab? If you're making too much idling, if you're spending too much time, then you're going to lose a lot on that part. It can be a financial disaster. Now let's see what is resource leveling. In this stage, we attempt to ensure that the demand for resources does not exceed the availability, which means to avoid resource aggravation. Aggravated means badhali, too much, more than what is needed. The situation is not good, so you want to avoid that situation. So you're going to do the resource leveling. Now let's see. You see, this is the histogram. Unit 1, 2, 3, 4, and up to 10. So in the first week, you need 1, then you need 2, then you need, keeps on adding and adding and adding, and goes on. So this black line is the demand, right? So the availability of resources is this. This dotted line is the available of resources, which are at your disposal. Now this is a problem. So what you do is you do the leveling. Resource leveling helps an organization to make use of available resources to the maximum. You try to maximize its usage. Resource leveling reduce wastage of resources. Just imagine in this case, in first week, you have 8 or 8.5 or whatever is the number resources available, where you're only using 1. In the second week, you have 8 or 9 resources available. You're using what? How many? 2. Then you're using 4. So in this period, you are wasting your resources. But in this period, you are demanding too much. So just imagine over here, this resource got unutilized. Now you are demanding more resources. So this is what is being explained. So it is going to help you avoid the wastage. That is to stop over allocation of resources or even under allocation. Resource leveling can often cause the original critical path to change. Keep in mind, आपका जो software है, the software which you have has the option to do the resource leveling automatically. You only need to click and it is going to, if it is resource constrained, you have to put the constraint also, by the way. If it is resource constrained, what will happen is the project will expand to adjust the conflict of the resources. So in doing so, the critical path can change. Noman, आपको याद है लास्ट टाइम जो हमने पढ़ा था क्रिटिकल पाथ मेथड, क्रिटिकल पाथ?
Yes, sir.
So if you recall that, in that case, there is a possibility that if the path which becomes longer will become the critical path. So what you're trying to, what the basic objective would be, that you use the available float. The float which is available should be used preferably in order to adjust for this over allocation. Do you remember floats, Khalid Rahman? Usama?
Yes, sir. The total float or free float we discussed in the last class.
Okay. Turi Sinin, आपको याद है floats? Turi Sinin, do you remember what is a float?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, ठीक है. Let's move. So what is happening is, it is the reallocation of slacks in the activities to minimize the fluctuation in resource requirement profile. You have a profile coming down and going like this. So this is the profile. So you want to avoid these fluctuations. You want to level them. So once you do this, you see relatively, this profile is at least relatively better than this one. It has much more sharper spikes and dips than this one. So you have tried to make it uniform. So it is telling you the resource profile before leveling is this one: large resource fluctuation, over allocation of resources. The required are these 100, but it is demanding more. But when you readjust them, so you see all of them are within the boundary, and fluctuations are less. You may ask me, sir, over here wastage is happening, over here wastage is happening. Yes, it is. But in real projects, this will happen, and you will have certain margin of safety as well. But it has to be very optimally decide, very intelligently decide. If it is labor only, labor can get sick. They have to go on leave. There can be all of a sudden there are risks there which become issue. To resolve those issues, you need extra manpower, for example. So you need to have something at backup. So yes, these are things, these are the real dynamics of the projects which you need to take care of. So resource leveling, it is telling you, for example, the project starts, activity A, 8 hours and 8 hours. Activity B, 8 hours. Activity C, 8 hours. So these are actually people. Tom and Sue, Tom. It can be any resource 1, resource 2, resource 1, resource 2, and so on. So this is the histogram. So you need, for day 1, you need 16 hours of resource 2. This is R2. This is R1. And on day 2, you need only resource 1. On day 3, you don't need any resource. So after resource leveling, what is happening? So resource 1 is 8 hours and resource 2 is 8 hours. By the way, there are 8 working hours in a day as per the general guideline and principles. On day 2, 8, and day 3, 8. So what you have done is, you have done the leveling. You have adjusted. You see what you have done actually is, activity A has been made after the activity B. And when activity B finishes, then activity C starts. In the beginning, the relationship was start to start. Both A and B were starting at one time. Now you have made it otherwise. Activity B will start when activity B will start when activity A finishes. Finish to start. So this helped in resolving this leveling issue. Time constraint scheduling. That was a resource constraint. In this case, emphasis will be placed on completing the project within specified time. You cannot change the time. It is constrained. Adjustment in the timing of an activity and resource required at a given time must be undertaken with the float slack. Again, the first approach, the first method of resolving will be to adjust the slacks. The slacks which are there, the days which are free, the problem which we did in the last class, if you remember, there were a number of days, 5 or 6 or 7, 8 days, whatever, were the slack. So you will try to adjust those other activities in that slack in order to avoid the resource the resource aggravation. So resource constraints, you do it by that. In the case the project must be completed within the resource. So it is trying to tell you the comparison. In the time constraint, time cannot be altered, overall project time. In resource constraint, you can't play with you can't add more resources. So you try to, in both cases, you first try to work in these slacks to get over the conflict of resource aggravation. If the total resources demand exceed the resources availability anytime, then some of the activity must be delayed. So yes, you have to delay. We just saw the example. Critical path. We have already discussed this. A common type of technique in resource leveling, it is the longest duration of path in the network diagram. We have already studied this. Fast tracking. What is fast tracking? Sequential series of activities are performed in parallel simultaneously. For example, foundation work in parallel with completion of architectural drawings. Fast tracking. Sequential and series of activities are performed in parallel simultaneously. You start the foundation while your drawings are still under preparation, but definitely you can only do once you are sure that your foundation plan is final. If the excavation is done, foundation is made, and at the completion of designing stage, you come to know that the width of the foundation should not be 2.5 feet, it should be 3.5 feet, then it's a big problem. So risks are there. You have to be very, very sure. We have discussed this thing also. So this is fast tracking. And what is crashing? Additional resources are assigned to the work done so that it is completed on a fast pace. Additional cost will be there and depends upon the availability of resources. So fast tracking generally means making things sequential and parallel, and crashing means adding more resources to the critical path primarily. Resource smoothing. One is leveling. Now let's see what is this. Resource smoothing is a resource optimization technique in which project managers adjust the timing of different activities so that the requirement for resources does not exceed a certain predefined resource limit.
Excuse me, sir.
जी
9:10 हो गया sir.
Okay, thank you. 15 minute रह गए और I'm on slide number 23. We have total 34 slides. So 11 slides to go. Inshallah, hopefully we should be able to do it. So थोड़ा सा फर्क रखें अभी, please. The difference between this resource smoothing means you're trying to optimize in general, even without having a conflict. So you try to define a predefined resource limit. You yourself आप खुद एक limit define करते हैं, optimum limit. You try to remain too close to that. In resource smoothing, as opposed to resource leveling, the project's critical path is not changed and the completion date may not be delayed. In other words, activities may only be delayed within free and total. So there is a fine difference. If you make a project plan, there is resource aggravation, there is a problem, there is a conflict. You do the resource leveling, you may end up having a different critical path. That is possible. But in resource smoothing, you try to work in the floats, and even without having any resource aggravation, you still try to smooth them. You try to optimize them, which is naturally should always be there. Fundamental by default, it is common sense which should prevail in general. It is used in time constraint scheduling. Now let's see. You see, this is the basic plan, week 1 to week 7. 45 hours is the line. This line is 45 hours, and you see this is the cutoff line. And there are many places where this is extra. Over here, it is unfilled. You do the resource leveling. So what you do is your first objective is to chop off, remove this portion so that there is no violation of the fundamental 45 hours. So this is what is done. Now you set a target of 38 hours. This was your target. By the way, 40 hours is generally a rule. Let's say over here it was 45 hours. Now you said 38 is my target. You try to optimize your distribution of resources around 38. This is 38. It can't be perfect. Please remember, it can't be perfect. That it is absolutely is every week is 38 hours. Maybe you're lucky you do it, but generally in real projects it won't be the case. So you see over here it is touching the upper limit. Over here it is slightly below, but overall much better than this one. So if even if your original plan was like this, no resource aggravation, you will still try to smooth it out like this. So resource smoothing is a good way of making your project efficient. Now, very quickly, the differences between the two. Resource leveling. Aim is to adjust start and end dates of a project with resource constraint while balancing resource requirements and availability. Used in resource constraint scheduling. This one, resource smoothing, is generally used in time constraint scheduling. Generally, broadly. Critical path of project will be effective. Critical path will not be affected. Can be applied to resource on critical path. Does not apply to resource on critical path because otherwise it can delay the project. Free and total float or slacks may be used. Free and total floats, yes, commonality between the two. Will optimize all the resources and may change duration of project. May not be able to optimize all resources if sufficient slack or float isn't available. Definitely, it is playing within those floats which are available. And if they are not, maybe you're not able to do it, but does not change the duration of the project. Risk in the first one, resource leveling, may change the critical path and hence duration. Risk, loss of flexibility due to reduction in slack. Hence, chances of increase in number of near critical activities. You see, when you are doing it like this, maybe a lot of activities are now not on the critical path, but they are almost critical, which is not bad, but only point to be remembered. You have to do a very efficient, there is always give and take. Project control during execution. The project execution phase is the third phase in the project lifecycle. In this phase, you will build the physical project deliverables. Now you are on ground and present them to your customer for sign-off. The project execution phase is usually the longest phase in the project lifecycle and it typically consumes the most energy and most resources. Yes, couple of lectures back, हमने study किया था. We studied about this. क्यों नोमान याद आ रहा है इस बात पे?
No, sir.
नहीं याद आ रहा. कौन बताएगा किसको याद आ रहा है? इस बारे में हमने पहले भी बात की हुई है. खालिद, याद आ रहा है कुछ?
नहीं लिया था ये क्लास सर मैंने.
नहीं. Do you remember, anyone who remembers, there was a graph with various things happening, something like this.
प्रोजेक्ट लाइफ साइकिल का जो ग्राफ हो सर वो यस सर वो तो याद है सर.
ठीक है. तो मैं this is what I'm referring actually.
यस सर, फ्रॉम स्टार्ट टू द एंड तक जो था वो एग्जीक्यूशन फेज वो चल रहा था सर.
Yes, something like that. So
Yeah.
I'm referring to that actually. Okay. To enable you to monitor and control the project during these phases, you will need to implement range of management processes. We have studied the project, many various processes. Procurement, communication, change management. There are so many things which we have discussed. All those things need to be in place. These processes help you to manage time, cost, quality, change, risk, and issues. So this will help you do what? First thing will be managing time. then you'll be managing the cost. Quality, without quality, the project is not there. The definition of project was actually, it says short endeavor to achieve a certain objectives. If you don't achieve a compaction CBR for the road, which is desired, then you are in trouble. Then there are changes happening, you have to manage them. There are risks which becomes issues, you have to manage them. You have to keep the risk to the risk level. Let them not convert into issues. They also help you to manage the procurement, customer acceptance and communication, etc. Perform time management. Project time management is all about recording the time spent by people on a project. The best way to see if your project is on track is to record time actually spent versus time planned to be spent. Baseline schedule and updated schedules are compared. Yes. Your project has been signed and you are executing. That is now writing on the wall. Fix. Now your project management team on daily basis is getting the feedback from you. Call the site engineer on kilometer 1 to 10. Please give me the progress for today. Daily progress report. Today, sir, I completed the excavation for 2 kilometers. You check it against the schedule. Yes, it was 2 kilometers, good enough. Then you call the site engineer number 2, who is working on the, for example, the toll plaza. You ask him, what is the progress? He tells you that he has done foundation of the concrete in the foundation. You check with your baseline. It was supposed to be start of the DPC today. It is lagging behind. It is behind the schedule. So you update this. So your project is a live document. On every day, it will be telling you where the activities are. ये आप उसमें देखेंगे प्रोग्रेस जब आप डालेंगे उसके अंदर एक बार चार्ट. इफ यू हैव ए बार of an activity, for example, if you update the progress, maybe different ways of doing it. For example, this is it is showing you. Sometimes it shows, like, for example, 40% is also written. So you see activity A, this is supposed to happen between these two dates, and today on this day, for example, this is the 4th day, 40% progress is there. But actually, if you see the plan, it should have been maybe over here also. So this is how you are actually doing. So you do the earned value analysis, earned value. How much value has been earned? A specific activity has to go to 100%. So what value it has earned, gained, achieved. Quality management. A quality management process is a critical process within any business, as it helps you to ensure that the deliverables produced actually meet the requirements of your customers. A quality management process is a set of procedures that are followed to ensure that deliverables produced by a team are fit for purpose. Quality management processes. Foundation excavation is done. Who will check and verify that the depth and width of excavation is correct? This quality management check. Who will check that the foundation at all the locations is, for example, there is no issue. For example, there might be a pipe, there might be some portions which are having a very low bearing capacity due to some water leakage or change of strata, which was not actually somehow could not be recorded during the geotechnical investigations. So over there, some other treatment is needed. So this is again a quality management process. It is just not only taking the concrete and steel specimen tested and that is the quality management. No, there will be many, many other things. If the concreting requires prior approval of the consultant and client 5 days ahead, if you miss that permission or if you miss anything, that is also a quality process, quality issue. You have not followed the procedure, that is also a quality issue. It is just not the material quality, but it is the quality of the management as well. So change management is whenever there is a change happening on the ground, how you record it, how you implement the measures which are required for that, how it is communicated, and everything. That is the change management. Risk management, you have already identified various risks. There will be traffic, there can be accident, there can be local collapse of soil in the foundation. How to prevent that? Rain may happen. How to avoid the rainy season? Any measures need to be placed. So this is the risk management. And when जी खालिद
9:25 पे क्विज भी है सर।
जी बस ठीक है, 3 मिनट खत्म कर रहा हूँ।
ओके
तो
सर।
issues management. Let me take the attendance also. Issues management is what? Issues management is when some risk transforms into an issue. Soil has collapsed. So now, how to manage that? That is the issue management. Procurement management. Cement to be procured, crush to be procured. Any issue happens in the quality, if it gets rejected, your project is delayed. You will return that cement, you will return that steel, but what about the delay in project? That is a problem. Communication management, we have already discussed on this. Please read this. So this is all from my side. I was fast because I had to complete it in this much time. So I could not take too many of your questions, but we still have 2 minutes. If you have any question, please let me know. कोई सवाल है आपका? ठीक है, फिर आप तैयारी करें क्विज की. प्लीज रिमेंबर यू आर नाउ मच ट्रेन्ड. क्विज 9:25 है. Sometimes it can take 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 1 minute to reach. It depends upon your net connection. So be patient. You will get it. नोमान ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
ओके सर।
चले, okay, from my side it is done. I'm available for some time, so you can start the quiz and then our class finishes. And follow the instructions. Follow the instructions already given. I gave the instructions couple of weeks before, so that there is no question that you don't know what is to be done. और फ्राइडे को इंशाल्लाह मिलते हैं फॉर दी लास्ट क्लास बिफोर द मिड टर्म इंशाल्लाह.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर।
जी खालिद.
जी सर, ऑनलाइन होगा या मतलब चीज सर?
क्या चीज?
ऑनलाइन होगा सर ये मिड टर्म एग्जाम?
सर ये डिपार्टमेंट पॉलिसी देगा आपको और मुझे पता चल जाएगी.
ओके सर।
सर हम लीव कर दें?
जी जी कर लें सर, आप कर सकते हैं, जा सकते हैं आप लोग, मुझे कोई इशू नहीं है। आप लोग अपना क्विज करें और जा सकते हैं। नोमान आप लोग चाहें तो ये क्लास से जा भी सकते हैं, मुझे कोई इशू नहीं है।
ओके सर।
मैं रिकॉर्डिंग भी स्टॉप कर देता हूँ।